Here are the top stories for today, April 28, 2021. Still coming soon, the palace says the delivery of initial 15,000 doses of Sputnik V jabs today will not push through, but assures logistical challenges hampering its delivery are being addressed. Metro Manila mayors adopt shorter curfew hours in the region aimed at balancing public health and economic activities as COVID-19 figures continue to ease. The Philippines bans the entry of travelers from India starting tomorrow as the COVID-19 situation in the South Asian nation continues to worsen. And lending a hand, the United States plans to send vaccines to India to help it deal with an unprecedented surge in COVID-19 cases. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The arrival of the initial batch of 15,000 doses of Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine is postponed anew due to logistical challenges. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque explained that the delivery of the Russian-made Sputnik V vaccine scheduled for today will not push through because there are no direct flights from Russia. He added that the vaccines are required to be stored at a temperature of -20 degrees Celsius. This is a requirement that cannot be met for now. Roque, however, assures that the National Task Force Against COVID-19 is doing its best to address the logistical problems. He said Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez is working to receive the jabs next month. Testing czar Vince Dizon earlier identified 5 local government units in Metro Manila who will participate in the rollout of the initial 15,000 doses of Sputnik V vaccine. These are Manila, Taguig, Makati, Parañaque, and Muntinlupa. Metro Manila mayors agreed on shortening curfew hours. In Resolution 21-09, curfew in the region will be from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. starting Saturday, May 1st. Citing data from the Health Department, the 2-week growth rate of COVID-19 in Metro Manila dropped to -5% during the first half of April under the modified enhanced community quarantine. Metro Manila mayors earlier agreed to implement a flexible version of the MECQ once it is retained to balance health and economic activities.
So itong extra 2 hours, malaking bagay po ito. No? Usually, mga 8 p.m. po, before 8, nagsasara na po yung mga establishments. Pagka ginawa natin 10 p.m. yan, kahit pa paano madadagdag sila ng 2 hours at dagdag din no, na customers sila yan. Pero of course, yung minimum health protocol, pinapatupad pa rin natin.
About 8 million doses of Covaxin produced by India's Bharat Biotech are expected to arrive by end of May. Philippine Ambassador to India Ramon Bagatsing Jr. said the delivery of the jabs is supported by the private sector and the local government units in the country. The Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, has approved the emergency use authorization for Covaxin, which has an efficacy rate of 81%. Aside from Covaxin, Bagatsing said the national government is also looking at purchasing around 30 million doses of Covovax from India's Serum Institute.
So, in summary, we will have 8 million by the end of next month in a vaccine, private sector LGU supported, and then by September we will have Covovax, that's the brand, Covovax, that was purchased by the national government with Serum Institute of India. And after that, we can order some more if there is a need for it.
Around 5,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been reserved for minimum wage earners and overseas Filipino workers in time for the observance of Labor Day on May 1. Malacanang has directed the Labor Department to create a master list to ensure that all sectors will be represented during the ceremony. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the inclusion of these workers in the A4 list demonstrates the IATF EID's recognition of their critical and indispensable role in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The cities of Pasay and Pasig are all set to vaccinate more of their residents once more supply of COVID-19 vaccines arrive. Meanwhile, Manila distributes cash aid to single parents and persons with disabilities or PWDs. The details from Marita Mawahe.
In Pasig City, 10 more vaccination sites are ready for use on top of its 6 existing inoculation sites. It also partnered with the Medical City to use its facilities in accommodating more vaccinees. Mayor Vico Soto said they are just waiting for the arrival of more jobs. The city earlier allocated 300 million pesos for the inoculation of 700,000 Pasigueños. Pasig began inoculating its healthcare workers in March. Senior citizens and persons with comorbidities were included in April. In Pasay City, the local government is targeting to inoculate 14,000 residents per week once it has a steady supply of COVID-19 vaccines. Mayor Emmy Calixto Rubiano said it will be their contribution to the national government's program to vaccinate some 70 million this year to achieve herd immunity. The city government partnered with SM Mall of Asia to put up the country's biggest vaccination site, which will open by the second week of May. It will also offer free shuttle services for vaccinees. In Manila, persons with disabilities and solo parents have started receiving their share of the financial aid from the national government. The city government has already distributed financial aid to about 333,259 families, or 87% of total beneficiaries in the city. Each PWD and solo parent received 4,000 pesos. Dumagoso advised other affected residents who have not received their cash aid to coordinate with the Manila City Hall. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muahe.
The Philippines has barred entry of travelers from India in the last 14 days to prevent the transmission of a double mutant coronavirus strain. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said all travelers from India or those with travel history within the last 14 days shall be prohibited from entering the Philippines beginning April 29 until May 14. Passengers already in transit from India and all those who have been there within 14 days before arrival to the Philippines who arrive before April 29 will be required to undergo 14-day facility-based quarantine. Roque said restrictions to travelers coming from other countries that report the double mutant strain may be imposed by the Office of the President. He said airlines are directed to prohibit the boarding of passengers entering the country except if they are part of the repatriation efforts of the national government. COVID-19 cases around the world have reached over 148 million. Meanwhile, over 3.1 million individuals have died from the disease. Here is the latest look at COVID-19 figures from around the world. Still to come, the government extends aid to the victims of the Air Force chopper crash in Bohol. And the Agriculture Department seeks to open more markets for hog raisers in Western Visayas. Back after a quick break, this is the PNA Newsroom.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat. mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
More local government units in the provinces come up with measures that strengthen their efforts against COVID-19. Late Kabagani has the story.
The Negros Occidental Provincial Government encourages the local government units in the province to purchase Sputnik V vaccines using their available funds. For storage, an LGU must have a facility with a temperature not exceeding -18 degrees Celsius. Some component cities in Negros Occidental had earlier committed to set aside funds for the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines for their respective constituents. This is on top of the procured 100,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines for the province. In Baguio City, health workers can avail of free rides which has started yesterday, April 27. This as the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board implements its service contracting program for public utility vehicles or PUVs. Health workers must present their identification card to the marked modernized jeepney units to avail of the free ride. In Davao City, some 300 PUV drivers voluntarily underwent testing during the first day of the drive-through surveillance swabbing. City Health Officer Dr. Jolinda Acosta said the surveillance swabbing aims to test 500 PUV drivers per day until May 8. She said public transportation is one of the major sources of infection due to poor ventilation and sanitation. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lade Kabagani.
Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo has committed to extend financial assistance to the victims of the Philippine Air Force attack helicopter that crashed in Bohol. Based on official reports, the helicopter left Mactan Air Base for a periodic maintenance flight on Tuesday, but suddenly experienced turbulence while on air and crashed off the town of Getafe in Bohol. The pilot in command of the aircraft was killed in the mishap. Aside from the financial assistance, President Rodrigo Duterte and Senator Go committed to shoulder the hospitalization of the 3 injured Air Force personnel. The Armed Forces of the Philippines also condoled with the family of the fatality and offer their support in any way they can. The Philippine Air Force is set to investigate the circumstances surrounding the incident. The Archdiocese of Cagayan de Oro on Tuesday announced it will temporarily close 6 of its churches there and in several towns in Misamis Oriental due to a surge in COVID-19 cases. In a statement, Archbishop Jose Cabantan said the closure will last for 10 days from April 28 to May 7 to disinfect these churches. Cabantan asked the public for their understanding, especially for those priests who were infected with the virus and all others who were directly affected. As of April 26, the active cases in Cagayan de Oro City stood at 318 with 4,147 recoveries since March last year. Meanwhile, the provincial government of Sarangani closed down its offices on Tuesday and ordered employees to stay home until further notice after some of them tested positive for COVID-19. Sarangani Governor Steve Chongbian Solon ordered to facilitate contact tracing among their employees and the disinfection of all offices at the provincial capital compound in Alabel town. But Solon directed employees assigned under its frontline offices and units, such as provincial-run hospitals and African swine fever and COVID-19 checkpoints, to report for regular work to sustain their operations. The confirmed COVID-19 cases in the area since last year have already reached a total of 669, with 18 related deaths and 622 recoveries. In our business news, the Department of Agriculture in Western Visayas is looking forward to opening more markets for hog raisers in the region as the economy reopens. Engineer Remilin Recoter, Regional Executive Director of DA Region 6, said that with the reopening of the economy, the markets in Boracay and Iloilo City will also increase their demands for pork products. As of the first quarter of 2021, Western Visayas has over 1 million live hogs according to the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA. The region has shipped around 75,000 heads to Luzon, while last year around 70,000 live heads were shipped out of Western Visayas. Hog stocks in the region are also expected to increase with the repopulation programs to be launched by the DA and the local breeders. Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III said he is open to any options that will address pork supply problems in the country. This, as he cited during the virtual hearing of the Committee of the Whole on Tuesday, that Executive Order 128 is a temporary measure that addresses the constraints affecting pork-producing industry. Dominguez said the EO is an emergency measure targeted to ensure adequate supply of pork in the country and to help stabilize pork prices. The hearing was held to discuss EO 128, which temporarily cuts import duty on fresh, chilled or frozen swine meat for a year to help address supply issues brought about by the African swine fever or ASF. The EO, which President Rodrigo Duterte signed last April 7, reduces levy on pork imports for the first 3 months upon the EO's effectivity and 10% in the succeeding 9 months. Up next, U.S. President Joe Biden plans to send vaccines to India, which deals with a heartbreaking COVID-19 situation. And more opportunities up for grabs. This year's Labor Day job fairs go online. Details ahead. Stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The government reminds organizers and participants of community pantries to follow curfew and other rules for their own safety. This amid criticism over people getting penalized while waiting in line for food even at curfew hours. Chris Crismundo has the story.
Malacanang reminded the organizers of makeshift community pantries to make sure that they operate within curfew hours. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque acknowledged that many senior citizens are lining up to avail of free food and other essential items being offered at community pantries. Roque gave the advice after curfew violation tickets have reportedly been issued to seniors lining up early at community pantries. It also came after 67-year-old Rolando de la Cruz died on April 23 while lining up at a community pantry set up by actress Angel Locsin along Holy Spirit Drive in Don Antonio Heights, Quezon City.
Ang curfew po talaga ay uniform, no? Diyan po sa NCR at sa mga karatig na probinsya, no? At hindi po pwede maging dahilan yung pagpila sa pantry para magkaroon ng exemption sa curfew.
Roque emphasized the need for pantry organizers to properly coordinate with LGUs to ensure the observance of physical distancing and other public health protocols. He warned that COVID-19 infections would continue to rise if people defy the government's repeated calls to follow the minimum public health standards. For its part, the Quezon City government will not hesitate to close down community pantries that will cause a COVID-19 outbreak. Mayor Joy Belmonte said the city wants to avoid a repeat of the incident in Locsin's pantry. She assured a proper investigation will be conducted during her meeting with community pantry organizers over the weekend. Belmonte reiterated the city will be strict in imposing protocols while balancing the needs of her constituents. No permits or clearances are required, but organizers must submit a written notice to the barangay where the pantry is located, including the person responsible for its operation. Meanwhile, the Sangguniang Laiko ng Pilipinas praised the setting up of community pantries, calling it an act of selfless service. At the same time, the group recognized the people behind the different community pantries that sprouted not only in Metro Manila but also in other parts of the country. The group said those behind these activities just turned God's love and generosity into action and simply acted on what their faith dictates without expecting anything in return. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
Several community pantries in ILOCOS Norte are helping people for the long term by providing food and planting materials. The Department of Agriculture, or DA, has set up pop-up pantries every week, known as the Kadiwa ni Ani Community Pantry. In Dingras Town, some 56 residents were giving mung beans, red and black rice, inbred milled rice, mushrooms, squash, and eggs. Those who are interested to plant received inbred palay seeds, cowpea, pole sitaw, glutinous corn, and mushroom fruiting bags. Another pantry was also set up at the DA INREC station in Batac City, located along the National Highway. Aside from vegetable seeds, the Batac station also gave away fruits and vegetables such as ripe papaya, banana, garlic, mung beans, and eggs. The government-initiated Kadiwa pop-up pantries in Dingras and Batac towns also accept donations of any kind to help those who need it most. The public, however, are reminded to always observe minimum health protocols for their own safety. The Philippine Statistics Authority is all set for the updating of the list of establishments, or ULE, in the Caraga region for 2021. The ULE updating on May 10 seeks to provide a reliable directory of establishments that will be used for establishment-based surveys and censuses. This will cover 22 data items, among which are the business name, registered name, tax identification number, address, and contact information. It will also cover information on the economic activity or business, the number of employees paid, and the total assets of establishments. The list is a comprehensive statistical business register that will guide the private sector in marketing plans and strategies. The updating also aims to capture the changes in establishments and business units in the region. In our foreign news, U.S. President Joe Biden says he is intent on sending coronavirus vaccines to India as the country grapples with an unprecedented surge in cases. Biden did not specify which vaccines he is considering to send, but said he discussed the plan with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Meantime, Biden said the U.S. is sending mechanical parts India needs to build vaccines, as well as therapeutics like remdesivir, to help the Indian healthcare system cope with the surge. The U.S. said it would release its stockpile of 60 million AstraZeneca vaccines for distribution. The World Health Organization had declared the situation in India as beyond heartbreaking. Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said the WHO is doing everything it can, providing critical equipment, including oxygen concentrators, prefabricated mobile field hospitals, and laboratory supplies. India's cases rose to more than 17 million, and its death toll is approaching 200,000. Here is the latest in our community billboard. The Department of Labor and Employment released the different links where job seekers may apply for opportunities in nationwide online job fairs in commemoration of Labor Day. Over 26,000 jobs are up for grabs online in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao at the upcoming Trabaho, Negosyo, Kabuhayan Job and Business Fair. Over 23,000 vacancies will be opened locally, while more than 3,000 jobs abroad will be offered by 45 participating overseas employers. DOLE Secretary Silvestre Bello III said the online job fair will be offering vacancies from industries such as manufacturing, business process outsourcing, health services, retail, and construction. The country's 119th Labor Day observance carries the theme Mayo Uno sa Bagong Panahon, Manggagawa at Mamamayan, Babangon, Susulong. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. Still coming soon, the palace says the delivery of initial 15,000 doses of Sputnik V jabs today will not push through, but assures logistical challenges hampering its delivery are being addressed. Metro Manila mayors adopt shorter curfew hours in the region aimed at balancing public health and economic activities as COVID-19 figures continue to ease. The Philippines bans the entry of travelers from India starting tomorrow as the COVID-19 situation in the South Asian nation continues to worsen. And lending a hand, the United States plans to send vaccines to India to help it deal with an unprecedented surge in COVID-19 cases. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.